Hey guys, welcome back to Pull the Crown. Last week I was telling Julien a story about my Submariner. And since that episode, I've kind of had an itch to want to get a Submariner back. Because see, I sold mine to afford my Daytona. I actually sold it to my little brother. And I saw him this week and he was wearing the Sub. And I asked him to borrow it. It made me call Julien and straight up ask him if he can get me another one, because there's no way I'm going to pull off getting another one at retail. But also I was undecided if I wanted the previous generation or the new generation with slightly thicker bracelet and the 1 millimeter larger size. And in asking him to get me one and also tell me which of these references to choose from, he asked for a chance to do an episode where he would convince me that I was about to make a mistake in buying a Submariner.
You know, I'm going to preface everything by saying convincing a Rolex fanboy to buy anything else other than Rolex is like pulling teeth. It's almost impossible because it all comes down to, this is a Rolex, you know, at the end of the day. So I'm going to start by saying this video isn't for someone that needs to buy a watch, a daily driver that walks into the room before them, that gets noticed and gets them into a circle of trust among, you know, basically people that know a little or just enough about watches to understand value perception and how much you've spent on a watch. This video is for someone, and I think this should be for you as well, is for somebody who wants their money to go as far as possible for a daily driver diver. That's what I really want here. I really want to convince you. And of course, the watch that I'm talking about is none other than the Omega Seamaster Professional 300. In this case, I brought the black dial variant to match your Submariner. Yours is a no date. Mine has a date, of course. But either way, I feel like it is a fair comparison. And I want to lead us off. We came up with some different points.
Like, to your point, I will try to not be emotional and I will try to be objective. And I will genuinely try to make a decision at the end of this episode.
Listen, you know, try to be objective. The title of the video still is going to involve Rolex fanboy, just so you know.
But I am. You're right. You're right to say that you have your work cut out for you. So all right, go ahead.
So let's start. First point, price and availability. So when we're talking about price and availability, I don't want to talk about market just yet. What I want to talk about is retail pricing. So retail pricing in US dollars, I have it written here for us, $9,500 on the Sub. All right, well, it's actually up on the screen. We could see it, but $9,500 US dollars for the Submariner no date that you're wearing right now, right? When we compare that to the Omega, we're talking about $6,200. If we could switch over to the Omega site.
That's more expensive than I remember paying. I feel like I paid in and around like 8,000 Canadian at the time.
So retail prices have gone up so high right now. This is in Canadian, but it is 6,200 US, just so we know. Retail prices have gone crazy. And this is on every brand.
That's cheap.
Even on
6,200 is really cheap.
It's low, man. It's low. It's a price difference of $3,300 between the two, okay? Plus tax on both. $3,300 is a watch. That's a Tudor. That's
my Black Bay.
Watch. Yeah, that's your Black Bay. Literally, right? I mean, this is a watch apart. Now, if we talk about availability, I can walk into any store right now where you see that beautiful little add to basket option. You could just click add to basket right here on the Omega website. And there you are. You'll have a beautiful brand new watch at your doorstep or pay for pickup at your local AD.
That's not as black and white though as like we make it seem to be, right? The ability to buy it directly off the website, in my perception, cheapens it a little bit, but also the convenience of it does make it more accessible, which is a good thing. So there's a psychological play there, right? Like a catch-22 of like, there's a part of you that wants the watch to feel unattainable and special, but at the same time, it's so unattainable that it's frustrating.
Yeah.
That you almost would prefer to say, screw it, and just
It's like that beautiful girl that you're like throwing all your attention at and you give everything to her. But at a certain point, you just say,
yeah, if she doesn't want you,
the 10 doesn't want me. Let's go for the 8, you know, let's go for the 7. Let's just, you know, at this point, right? But actually,
everybody wants the 10 on 10. If you're going to try to convince you to buy an Omega by being like, yo, it's an 8 out of 10, you're losing this conversation.
Yeah, I realized after I said that.
All right, keep going.
I actually don't
try
think
some
that.
Stronger points.
By the way, I don't actually think that. And we could get straight into design and variance now.
Okay.
We could talk about our second point here, where I think that the Omega, the Seamaster Professional 300 line, has a lot more to offer in terms of variance. Okay, just before we get to design.
That's a huge plus, yeah.
First of all, these are the options of the Seamaster. You can scroll, guys. These are all the options. Okay, we have different bracelets. We have different styles of bracelets. We have rubber. We have NATOs. And by the way, on the Omega website, if you scroll through their NATO selection, it's like a joy. You can personalize any watch.
I'll be the first one to admit that this is by far the greatest selling feature for Omega versus Rolex. Is that if you're going to get a Rolex, or if you're in the market for a diver, you have like two choices with the sub, right? Because if you want it blue, then it's a Smurf, and then we're not talking the same price anymore because it's white gold. If it's no, sorry, if it's a Smurf, but if it's
Smurf or
if
Cookie
it's
Monster, it'd be a Cookie Monster in today's,
or if it's the green one, which is the Kermit,
Kermit is Starbucks,
then the Kermit is stainless, but it's so rare, or people perceive it as rare, that the secondhand market is ridiculous, and the AD is going to allocate it only to select clients, right?
And
really, it's like if you're lucky enough to get one at retail, it's a date or a no date. Or even if you could afford the secondhand, again, most probably it's going to be a date or no date.
And even
black
at that,
dial.
though, even at that, right? Even with the no date is the least desirable. Well,
I like the symmetry. Design-wise, I like the symmetry of the absence of the Cyclops.
I'm not talking about that.
Personal choice.
I'm not talking about that. I love the no date. If I was going to get a Submariner for myself to daily drive, it would be the no date.
Right.
But I mean into the sense that it is the less desirable of the stainless steel Submariners, of which there are three options: the no date, the date standard stainless black bezel LN, and the Kermit.
Okay.
And out of those three, it is the least desirable, and that's why the market isn't as high.
Right.
And the appreciation factor also isn't as high.
Fair.
And it's worth noting too.
Yeah, just going back to the variance point, like again, if you want it in a different color, if you want your diver in a different color than black, right off the bat, Omega, you have a leg up because you can choose from so many different variants. And stylistically, I have to say, like, it's really exciting to see it on the rubber, to see with the Milanese loop. Like, that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
You know, like the Bond limited edition, like, I think if I'm not mistaken, secondhand is still cheaper than a regular black dial, like no date or date.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, to clarify, it's not a special edition or even a limited edition. The No Time to Die is what you're talking about, the titanium variant. In which case, guys, if we click the 42 again, we'll just pull it up real briefly.
But design-wise, like so let's start with this. Side by side, if we're just comparing the black dials, which one do you find more beautiful? Of the Sub and the Seamaster, if you have them side by side, is there one that is more beautiful to you?
For me, it's the symmetry on the Sub is better.
Right.
But to me, the dial is just, it's not even close. Like the Seamaster has so much more going on. First of all, it's a ceramic dial, zirconium oxide dial.
Yeah.
Okay, it's laser engraved with the wave. It has an actual texture within the wave that is different than the glossiness of the overall ceramic dial. So this is something different. It's not an apples to apples comparison, right? The Submariner is a plain glossy dial.
There's more to admire on the Omega, right?
Yes.
From the skeletonized hands to the see-through case back to the splash of red on the dial.
Yeah.
There is more to admire, but there's a busyness to it that you either have to like love or hate.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like everything you're saying makes perfect sense. I even appreciate the lyre lugs. I didn't think I would like them, but when I tried it on earlier, I actually did really like them.
They work. They work.
They do work. It's the helium escape, man. I cut it off.
That's a common problem. It's a common problem, the helium escape valve. But I don't want to jump ahead too much. I don't want to get into other points. But the reason why the helium escape valve is there to stay is because Omega really is tying down to its heritage. When this watch was introduced in 1993 for the first time, the 300M, the professional, the reason why professional is in the name of the watch is because this is a watch that was built for saturation divers. That's a very specific profession, okay? It's meant for them only. If you're just a standard diver, if you're trying to do some scuba diving, helium escape valve is totally useless. Nothing. It does nothing. It's the same thing on a deep sea. Right. It's the same thing in Rolex.
No, but at least that is like hidden into the case.
Yeah, it's a non-manual.
So like you're selling the gimmick, but you're not compromising on your style.
Well, this
watch,
was
right?
early into
like
helium escapes.
Dude, nobody's buying these watches to go diving. Like, let's be real. You're gonna go wear them in a pool, and even then, only a subset of people wear their watches in hot tubs and pools.
Well, here's a good point. Then. Here's why I'm bringing it up and why it's kind of intrinsic to the name Seamaster Professional, because you could go for the Seamaster 300 heritage lines, which have no helium escape valve, for example.
Right.
And that's another variant of the Seamaster line altogether. Technically, Aquaterras are also part of the Seamaster line, right? These are watches that don't have a helium escape. This watch was designed specifically for saturation divers. These divers treat their body basically so that they can go to ultra depths They live in a container that is filled with helium and oxygen and highly pressurized, and they train their bodies in order to absorb and withstand the pressures of ultra depths in the ocean. What happens is slowly as they're decompressing those chambers, all that helium does find a way into the watch, and it basically escapes because it's so light. It escapes the watch much slower than oxygen. So what happens is helium will eventually, if you don't decompress it, it might even pop out the crystal. It'll literally break the watch, right?
Okay, that's cool.
So it's an ultra specific tool.
Like professionally, scientifically, mechanically speaking, it's impressive.
It's exactly.
But for the people that are going to buy this watch, the AKA Meaves of the world, we don't want that.
I get it. But that's the beauty of Omega, because again, you could get a Seamaster
it doesn't
300.
go any deeper than a sub. A sub is still 300 meters, and that's 300
That's 300 meters. No.
So it's really just
specifically for saturation divers
for the helium. Okay.
in one of those chambers. That's what you're doing.
It's cool. It's cool.
Look, it's a bit of a gimmick.
But I appreciate the gimmick.
Yeah.
I like the gimmick.
Yeah.
On the Sea Dweller.
Yeah.
But I don't like the gimmick right here because I don't like that it comes at the cost of this random like nub sticking out. You know what I mean? It's like if I had a bump on my head and it's like it permitted me to be more intelligent than I am. But every time you look at me, I just have this giant bump on my head. I'm like, yeah, but dude, it makes me
I think
smarter.
you're thinking of that like the opposite, like a cartoon. If you like generally like you're thinking of like a cartoon bump, that's like usually that would make you stupider in like Looney Tunes, right?
No, I'm saying like a tumor-shaped second brain.
Where's this conversation? Can we talk about watches?
Right, let's move on.
Can we move on to watches? Design-wise, listen, I'm
let's leave it at design is personal preference.
It's personal preference.
There's way more details on the Omega. I'm giving you that point.
Honestly,
there is more to admire.
Yes.
But it's not as classic. It's not as traditional. It's a little thicker. So it's harder, I find, to dress that up with the suit as it is a sub.
Yeah.
Sub's more versatile.
Yeah. Look, on wrist.
But it's a nice watch.
On wrist, helium escape, you don't notice it. Like you said, lug-wise, I love it. Design of the bracelet is far more robust, far more practical, and it is recognizable, but not, let's say, as recognizable as, say, like an Oyster bracelet would be as well, right? And that we'll touch some more on that later. But I think what we should jump into now is movement and tech specs. Okay. So these two watches are pretty comparable watches. Okay. They both feature ceramic bezels. They both have 120 click bezel, right, with click spring. They have Luminova.
Pause on the click thing.
Yeah.
Play your bezel into the mic.
What, this bezel?
Yeah, play it into the mic.
I gotta.
What do you mean? You can't grip it with your hands?
Not really.
That's a point against the Omega, bro.
Greasy fingers, man.
That's a point against the Omega. But go ahead. I just want to hear it.
I'm trying my best.
Okay, we're going to call that a fail.
We're going to call it a fail.
This one is really gunked up because my brother like properly dailies it, but I cleaned it yesterday and it's a little bit better.
Yeah. The bezel feel and everything like that, very satisfying.
Oh, it's so nice.
But if we're talking actual diving spec, if we're talking technically speaking, they both have 120 clicks.
Right.
They're both used, they can both go for the same purpose in terms of diving, right?
Yeah.
Just mine obviously is saturation diving approved.
Okay.
Yours isn't.
Okay, power reserve?
Power reserve is 55 hours.
That's low.
It's not really.
Oh, the new Rolex reference is 70 hours.
I'm well aware it's 70 hours.
This one's what, 48?
Yes, 48 on the 116. Yeah, technically you do have a 116 that's worth noting. The 126 did upgrade to 70, but
so it beat the previous reference, not as good as the current reference. Okay.
But power reserve for a diver isn't as important necessarily because
for me, it's not for the diver, it's for a watch. No. It's just that extra bit of time is that extra bit of time that it could be on your nightstand or in a watch box, not on a winder, and be holding the time.
That's what I'm saying though, is that this is a watch that I'm trying to convince you is a daily wear beast. If you're wearing it every day,
leaving your wrist longer.
It's not leaving your wrist longer than 2 hours. And by the way, setting the time on this watch is a joy.
Well, not 2 hours. You don't sleep with your watch.
Yeah, let's be careful there. Yeah, no, I do not sleep with a watch on. Okay, you freak. That doesn't happen. Yeah. But if we get into more tech specs, okay, I spoke earlier. They both have ceramic bezels. This one has a ceramic dial. It has a laser etched dial. It's harder to work on, right, than the Rolex. Both watches are basically totally machine finished.
Okay.
Okay, neither of them really have much hand assembly going on. The Omega probably has more than the Rolex, and that's just based on production numbers and also based on certification. Yeah. Your Rolex has COSC superlative chronometer certification. This watch has METAS certification. So I touched on this before when we talked about the white Speedy versus the Panda, but the difference between the two is really down to a few points. A's timekeeping standard is a bit sharper on this watch. It's adjusted to 6 positions rather than 5. Okay, for the Rolex.
So it's more accurate, you're saying?
It's more accurate, but the range is going to be larger. But that's due to the fact that there is an added position, which is going to bring up or down the average per se. But technically speaking, I've found in my experience that Omegas...
Whoa.
Yeah.
I'm not a very smart boy.
Yeah.
But if I'm not mistaken, you just said out loud that it's more precise, but less precise in seconds per day, gained or lost?
Generally speaking, if you're living through your day, in my experience, Omegas are more accurate, generally speaking, because when we talk about positions on a watch, when they actually regulate a watch, they don't do it in a flat position. You can't just do it simply. Beat error is mitigated so that against every position, you try and find an equilibrium rather.
Okay, sorry.
You're
so
turning the watch around.
The watch is actually in real time, different positions, not just flat on a counter.
Yeah. So, but look, Rolex adjusts to 5 positions. Okay, that's a lot. That's good. This does it to 6. So yeah, the certification is like 0 to plus 5 seconds. On the Rolex, it's -2 to +2, something like that for the superlative chronometer certification.
Right.
So technically there's a 4-second spread, but you're losing a position. So, it's kind of that. The main thing though, and this is a big one, is for METAS, they only certify their watches METAS, master chronometer, when the watch is fully assembled. For your Rolex, it was never tested as a fully assembled watch. No Rolex was ever tested as a fully...
The movement itself is tested
before it goes into the case. The movement is tested separately before it goes to the case. And what can happen? The reason why I've spoke before about different issues people get watches out the factory. What happens when you test a movement before you put it in a case? During the assembly, if one little thing gets misplaced or something goes wrong on the assembly process, you don't know until you hand it off to the customer now.
I understand.
Right. So that's why I say that generally speaking, Omega could be more precise. Now there's another tech spec of the movement. Okay. Look, they both have silicone hairsprings. Okay, it's great. They have tons of shock absorption. This watch has 15,000 of COSC magnetic resistant
because of the silicone hairspring.
Not just some other tweaks to the movement, to the case design that add to the magnetic resistance, but that's like basically you can run this through an MRI machine essentially, and it's fine. If you did that with the Rolex, it would turn to a pile of bananas. It would melt. Okay, it would be a useless hunk of junk. It would get so screwed up. But if we keep talking about tech specs, the other leg up, and I'm getting super nerdy on.
Yeah, you're getting very nerdy. I'm falling asleep a little bit. But I appreciate it.
And the reason I'm getting so nerdy is remember the $3,300 US price difference between these two watches. Okay. This is one of the main reasons that doesn't make any sense. Escapement.
Yeah.
Okay. And this adds to the time
argument now. You get more for your money. It's that simple.
It's
save
really
money, get more.
Okay. I'm going to get super nerdy.
All right.
And this is for anyone
I'm already falling asleep, but all right.
I know. I'm going to get nerdy in. I'll keep it brief.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Rolex escapement is a standard Swiss lever escapement. Okay.
Yeah.
You have this, you see this fork?
Yep.
This little thing? I'm trying to dumb it down for you.
Yeah. It oscillates. I get it.
Yeah. So it comes into contact with the escape wheel. Okay. It drives a lever. All right. When those two forces come into contact, there's a lot of sliding friction that happens. And that's the worst kind of friction. When something presses up against it, spends some time there and gets slid off.
Okay.
That generates a loss of energy. And it also basically can mess with timekeeping. And that's why you need to lubricate watches, right? To make sure that friction is mitigated. There's no loss of energy, loss of time. Okay? Make sense?
I'm trying so hard to not fall asleep. Okay, keep going.
Car need oil?
Yeah.
Oil go bad?
Keep going.
Need lubricate car? Car go vroom?
Yes.
Okay. That's basically that. If we skip to the next image, guys. So we'll talk about Greg Daniels. Genius watchmaker. Really underrated. Listen, he pioneered a coaxial escapement. He based it loosely off of Breguet's natural escapement. And his idea was, I want to find a way to make a commercially viable, somewhat natural escapement that can be produced in a thin movement. Originally, he was kind of laughed out of a bunch of different brands because he produced it for a pocket watch, which was super thick. But he spent the 70s developing a means by which to create it for a movement that was like 2 millimeters thick. And immediately Omega was one of the first to take the plunge and say, we got to use this. While other brands didn't. You know, we had the Pateks, the APs, the higher end brands. Omega actually said, let's use it. And since then, as you know, even from the Speedies, the current production Speedmaster models use a coaxial movement. So what happens? You see the little fork?
Yep.
Same fork. Now there's 3 prongs. Also, you see the wheel? Now there's a new wheel introduced. So there's 2 wheels and 3 little twigs on the fork. Okay. What that does is it means less surface area, less friction, less oil needed. Okay. Okay. All it is it's a small but genius invention that takes extra time to produce and adds to timekeeping and overall longevity of the watch, because you're going to need less oil on this part now for the future, which means less service energy.
Dude, all of that is so exciting. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's great. Well, I love it. I appreciate the precision. I like the precision and all of this stuff. That's great. All I heard, bro, in that entire thing is it adds millimeters. So I get it. You can see it when you look under the watch.
Chris, buy a fucking Seiko.
No, they just
buy a Seiko then. You know, like if you don't care, if the jump is literally like,
it's not that I don't care.
Dude,
it's not that I don't care. It's just
about
the things that I feel like are more, that you have to prioritize more, is how thick the watch is, because that'll affect how it wears on your wrist. And the power reserve. Besides the movement, it could be better in every conceivable technical way.
Yeah.
But these watches are precise to the point where you're always going to have the time, and it will still not be as accurate as the time on your phone in your pocket.
But here's the difference.
So it's kind of moot.
If
For me, this is moot.
you are a nerd.
No, let's move on to resale.
If you
let's
are
talk about resale.
If you are a nerd,
if
you are a nerd, you care about this sort of stuff. And this is important.
But I'm not a nerd. I'm sorry that I'm not.
Well, but this is value add, man. This is value add. The Rolex is overpriced is my overall
I'm sold
point.
On the overall
retail
point of there's more value. That you won. I concede.
By the way, just quickly, we have to touch on movement finishing. That's important. This has a sapphire case back. You're going to spend time looking at the movement.
The movement is prettier, finished to a higher standard, and you get to admire it.
It's machined, arabesque, Côte de Genève, basically classic Omega style, super recognizable in the caliber 8800. Your Rolex is finished like decent, but it's closer to like ETA than it says.
But it's smooth. You can't even see it, so it doesn't matter.
You can't see it.
You can admire pictures of it on the internet.
Yeah, but like there are closed case back Nautiluses, there are closed case back Royal Oaks. Most of them are, from let's say 2019 or whatever. But still, they're going to be finished to a high standard, because if you're charging your customers $9,500 US for a watch, you better put some effort into finishing, right?
Yeah. But you're not getting finishing on a Rolex. You're getting hype.
That's my point. And that's my point, right? Okay. And that's where...
So let's move on to resale.
Yeah.
What's the resale on an Omega?
In US dollars, I had to do a little conversion, but it's right around 4,000 US for a brand new of this variation in black. And
if you want to sub the most recent reference...
Yeah, the most recent brand new unworn 2025, you're paying like 12.5 US. 12.5 US.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
It's 3 times the price.
Yeah, 3 times the price.
Like, see, that's going to convince me a lot more than any co-axial escapement argument that you could make. It's to pay 3 times the price, dude. You want 3 times the price for less of a watch? That's your whole argument. I'm making the argument for you.
It's not even just that, though. Because it's not just that. It's you're getting an added level of craftsmanship. If you already take what I just explained, and I tried to dumb it down and be, I was obviously nerdy, but I'm a nerd about this stuff, right? Yeah. I care about this stuff. You take all of that innovation that Omega is implementing, all the added sort of little details that Omega goes through, which make it punch so far above its weight at retail, and then you take into account, like you said, it's a third of the price of the Rolex. That should just go, you should just go, well, then what the fuck is the point of the Rolex, except it looks pretty?
It doesn't have a point. But again, you're arguing nerdy tech specs with a guy that's very emotionally invested in a watch.
Yeah.
Right? You know this about me. I prioritize the aesthetic. I prioritize the way that it makes me feel, the way that people perceive it, all of the things that are like intangibles.
Yeah.
Right? They're all the intangibles. Like, there's merit to the fact that the original James Bond wore a sub, no date.
Yeah.
That's worth a lot. That the author wrote that he had a sub, and that as of 1995, Omega paid for that slot.
That's our next. No. That's our next talking point.
We want that. We want that association.
Exactly.
Right?
And look, Bond has had its time with Rolex with the 6538, right? That's the first ever watch that was featured in a Bond film with Sean Connery, right? Ignore the price on this. That price should be, triple that basically in this market. Now, this is an older article.
Was his sub a gilt dial?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a standardized sub, and by the way, it's a no date. Like this is like the non-commercially produced Submariner variant, the very first 6538.
Yeah.
Featured here on a NATO strap. Kind of interesting where Omega now is pretty known for NATO straps. In this movie, he's wearing it on a NATO, and that's basically where the whole idea behind Bond and NATOs came in. So speaking about history and legacy, if you think about Omega, you generally think, especially the Seamaster, you think about Bond. Rolex has that same track record, but it only lasted 2 watches, the 6538 and the 5513. Beyond that,
now if you think Bond, you think Omega. You do.
It's the
point that I'm trying to make is that you think of it because it was paid for and not because it was organically chosen. And I feel like that shows in the styles of the 2 watches, where the Omega, you get a lot more. It's almost because you need a lot more to convince people to buy it.
Yeah.
Because the sub is and will always remain sub. It's the king for a reason, and it's mainly because of how iconic it is, right? Like that's the main argument for the Rolex, I would say, is really just recognize it from across the room. It's the icon, it's the king, it's the watch that everyone thinks about. It's the watch that's the most copied. Like that's what it is. The idea, I feel like, is you have to unscramble that.
Yeah, but KB, all that you just said, I've just got to nullify, because the very first Bond reference that was featured in GoldenEye, that was not paid for by Omega. The partnership, they realized, oh wow, we got to make this like our thing now from this point onward. That's like happened after the fact, right? That happened after. Really, the watch was like, there's one scene I think where in maybe not in GoldenEye or not in, but like I don't think it might have been Roger Moore that had a 5513 where he like uses the bezel or something to saw something, or like a laser comes out of it.
Right.
But next to that, the next time like watches were really used in the Bond movies was in like 1995 with GoldenEye Pierce Brosnan. So if guys, we go to the next page, that's the first basically Omega that was featured in the movie. And that wasn't like tied to the marketing campaign. That happened later, where they made a few other movies with Pierce Brosnan, and then it carried over.
So this
to
is not
Craig.
part of the sponsorship?
Not yet. Like the very first one wasn't.
Okay.
It came out afterwards, right? So it came from the
I feel
use
like that
case.
reference secondhand must be pretty cheap too.
Oh, ridiculously cheap. Yeah. These Bond SMPs are like, if you could go quartz or auto on these, and either way you're spending like $2,000 to $3,000 US for these watches, right? Like maybe for some of the rarer, if you get full sets, you could spend more like $4,000, let's say. But yeah, these are really inexpensive references as well, and they're tied to Bond. Meanwhile, you try and find a 6538,
right?
Good luck, or a 5513, even like a base 5513, you're spending huge money, right? And that's just the difference between Omega and Rolex. I think it's style over substance. So if the objective is, let me spend my money on a diver that's going to take me through the day, I can beat to shit, I can wear every day, and I could still wear it with pride, knowing, hey, this is a great product that I paid a good price for. For me, it's going to be the SMP, man, professional. You've got the tie down, right? You've got Daniel Craig, who wore different iterations. Then they started to release, special editions, limited editions tied to the different
Everything
movies.
You're saying is sound, man. It is sound.
I know it's sound.
Okay, all right.
We have one point left, which is hype and noticeability. Hype and noticeability.
Not even worth talking about.
Just
give it to the Rolex.
Yeah,
just give it to the
of
Rolex.
course. Hype, noticeability. Yeah. Rolex is all hype. But the noticeability end, if I'm walking around, I don't know, New York City, I'd much rather be wearing, or even, downtown Montreal at night, I'd much rather be wearing a Seamaster than a Submariner.
Yeah.
Probably
to your point of like daily drivers, there's something nice about driving a sleeper.
Yeah.
Right? The Omega's a sleeper.
Yeah.
You have a very special watch that for the most part is going relatively unnoticed, for better or for worse, right? It really depends at that point what you're trying to get in terms of attention from your watch.
Yeah.
If you're the kind of person that wants to walk into a room and have everyone notice that you're wearing a Rolex sub, obviously get a Rolex sub.
Yeah.
If you're the kind of person that walks into a room and is trying to go unseen, you're not pretentious,
Not
You're more
pretentious is a good one.
Yeah, not pretentious, right?
Maybe more horologically facing, value facing.
Exactly.
That's the
right.
way to
You're
go.
someone who cares about the watch that you're wearing, but you don't subscribe to the hype.
Yeah.
You don't do what everyone else does. You really tailor your tastes, right?
Yeah.
In choosing the bracelet, choosing the color of the dial and the bezel. Like you get to really make it yours, right? If you're more unique, I would say, as an individual, then I can see the value going to the Omega.
Look, man, to me, it's not just that. I love the way that you could travel anywhere in the world with this watch without much fear, right? You can beat it up, right? It has the components necessary. It's a more robust case at 42 millimeters versus your sub at 40, the modern iterations at 41.
I would have taken that as a negative point, but honestly, when I wore it earlier, it didn't seem all that large on my wrist.
It doesn't, because the
surprisingly.
lug to lug is like 49 millimeters on this watch, right? And it's not an overtly thick watch either. But it's that, to me, the noticeability is a big one, right? For a daily driver, especially if you're working in a city, you live in London, for example, and you're worried about that. I mean, even in London, mind you, Seamasters, Omega just as a brand.
But again, that's a real
well-known,
personal preference, like whether or not you want it to be noticed or not.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so what are your very quickly, what is your conclusion to this? Like, how do you summarize why I should buy an Omega?
Look, man, technically speaking, it has that Rolex that you're wearing beat. It even has the modern iterations beat. I feel like it's a comfortable watch. I give the bracelet to Rolex. I think that it's a bit too thick on the Omega. But if you're wanting a watch that feels more sturdy and it feels like it could take a beating, it's going to be this Omega. If you're after something that has good value retention, if you buy it in the secondary market, you buy it at the right price, it's going to have the same value retention as a used Rolex. Now, it's not going to necessarily jump up because someone talked about it or something gets discontinued, but that's not going to be a sub either. You know what I mean? It's not going to have that investment factor that a more rare Submariner might have, or something that was produced short term, right? That's just not going to happen. Value retention's great. It's got the tech specs that you need for the use case of a daily driver. Beat the crap out of the watch and save so much money. It's a third of the price of the Submariner. You're getting identical features and then some. Just the power reserve you're lost on. You have a double-coated AR on this watch as well, which is worth noting. Add a little tech spec. But for me, it's a no-brainer. Like, for somebody who wants value for money, this is the way to go.
Okay. All right, fair enough. So these are my concluding thoughts. The sub's a better looking watch. The sub brings you more emotional enjoyment, in my opinion. I think, it's a little bit noticeable, but in a good way. People want their nice watch to be noticed, for the most part, I think. And I think when you travel, just wear a cheaper watch. I have a couple of $500 Seikos that I wear when I travel, I think the bracelet taper is like way undervalued. It makes the watch wear so much better. I like the locking clasp. I like the clasp better. The glide lock on that is great. It's a great watch in every single way.
Yeah.
But I want the sub. But to be honest, this entire episode was kind of pointless, and all of your nerding out was also pointless.
Yeah.
Because I was convinced at the price.
Yeah.
Honestly, that convinced me.
Really?
I've been enjoying my Tudor Black Bay more than I enjoyed my sub. I find the thinner lugs, the gilt dial, there's more, the red little triangle at the 12 o'clock, all of these things sell me more. I actually enjoy my Tudor more than I did my sub.
So a good way to think of it is get this watch and two other Tudors.
Exactly.
And that's equivalent to one Submariner.
I think I would do white dial with a Milanese loop.
Yeah.
And go buy my Black Bay. And I'd get both those watches and still have change left over,
and by the way,
as opposed to buying a sub on the second hand.
And by the way, you go to try and get a bracelet option change at Rolex, good luck.
Yeah.
You go to any Omega boutique and you say, yeah, I'd love the Milanese for this, and that's what I've often told people to do is, get the rubber variant and get a mesh strap. That looks knockout, okay?
Right.
The mesh isn't always super comfortable for everyone. It's fixed holes and everything, so sometimes you won't fit exactly between, but it's an absolute knockout of a bracelet because it's so thin, it hugs your wrist.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
This watch is a strap queen in general, right?
Well, listen, dude, you successfully convinced me. Like, I fucking fell asleep, I'll be honest. We went way too technical on this.
I had to.
I was sold on the price.
I had to, man.
I
I'm
hope
a
you
nerd.
convince
What do
some
you
other
want?
people, though. Genuinely, I hope you convince some other people because it is ultimately a better watch. It really is. I understand why somebody would opt for the
just said
Rolex.
it, man.
I did it I understand why someone would.
Yeah.
But genuinely, real consumer advice, if you can get over not owning a Rolex, the Omega is a better watch, and you're better off to have multiple watches than just one watch.
Yeah.
For the same price. Like, it doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. Diversify your collection.
Yeah.
And you're going to feel happier in the end.
Let us know what you guys think in the comments. Tell me if you guys fell asleep or you appreciated all the details that he went into. And
I think we have an exciting one actually planned for next week.
Yeah, so I was going to say, before we let you guys go, I thought of an idea before this episode that I pitched to Julien. I want us to start a challenge where we have to buy a watch in the week coming up before the next filming. And we set a budget that we can afford, and we bring that budget up more and more every time we can afford it, right? We kind of turn it into a series. So the challenge is we have to buy a watch for $50. We're going to exclude taxes, duties, and shipping. So it's really
the watch
just like,
is worth $50.
Exactly. The
Anything
net
added,
value of the watch is $50. And again, we're going to move that up and we'll keep challenging ourselves. But for the next episode, you have $50. Bring your A game and show me what you got.
Let's do it, man. You're getting creamed. There's no chance for you at all.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
Thanks for
guys.
watching.